Hello everyone and welcome to this video on the Python programming language. So in this video I will attempt to get Twitter's sentiment on Bitcoin. And by that I just mean I will attempt to measure how positive, neutral, or negative some Twitter users feel about Bitcoin. Now before we begin, if you like the videos on this channel, then be sure to click that subscribe and like button, and to be notified about new videos from this channel, hit that bell notification. Now, currently I'm on Google's website. It's called colab.research.google.com, and I'm on it because it makes it really easy to start programming in Python. So all you have to do is go to this website and then log in using your Google account and get started writing your Python code. So to get started writing this code, you're going to want to click on File, then click on New Notebook, and a new tab open up for you, and then eventually a new cell open up for you. And in this cell, I'm going to put in some comments. I'm going to put in a description about the program. So I'm just going to type, this program gets the sentiment of Bitcoin from Twitter. And I'll put Twitter users actually. All right, next I'm going to create a new cell by clicking this code button in the top left. And in this cell, I'm going to import the libraries that I plan on using throughout the program. So I'm going to import TweePy. And next from text blob, I'm going to import text blob. And I'm going to import pandas as PD, and I'm going to import numpy as np, and then I'm going to import re, regular expressions, and I'm going to import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, and I'm going to give the plot a style, so I'm just going to type plt.style.use, and I'm going to use the 538 style, and then I'm going to run this cell by clicking this button here to the left, and this will let me know if I made any mistakes. So it looks good. Let's create a new cell. Now the idea again is for this program to scrape tweets from Twitter, but before you can do that, you will need to create a Twitter account and a Twitter application to get the API credentials. I already have the API credentials in a file here, so I'm just going to upload that file. So here we're going to upload the login file. All right. So I'm going to use Google's library to do this. So from google.colab, I'm going to import files, and I'm just going to type files.upload, and let's go ahead and run this and click on choose files, and I'm going to choose that login.csv file, and there we go, we have it uploaded now. So let's create a new cell. Now that we have that file uploaded, I want to store the data. So I'm going to create a variable called log and set it equal to pd.read_csv, and then I'm going to input the name of the file. So I'm just going to come up here and highlight it, and then I'm going to copy it using Control C, and I'm going to come down here and paste it using Control V, and then I'm going to run this cell. So everything looks good. Let's create a new cell here, and now in this cell, I'm going to get the Twitter API credentials from the file. So I'm going to create a few variables. First will be the consumer key, and I'm going to set that equal to log key at position 0. And then I'm going to create consumer secret, and I'm going to set that equal to log key at position 1. And then I'm going to create a variable called access token and set that equal to log key at position 2. And last but not least, I'm going to create another variable called access token secret, and I'm going to set this equal to log key at position 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this cell. Everything looks good. I'm going to create a new cell, and now I'm going to create the authentication object. So I'm going to create a variable called authenticate, and I'm going to set it equal to tweepy.oAuthHandler, and I'm going to input the consumer key, and I'm going to input, not import, the consumer secret. Okay, so that looks good. Next, I want to set the access token and the access token secret. So just type authenticate dot set underscore access underscore token, and then input access token and access token secret. All right. And now I want to create the API object. So I'm going to create a variable called API, and I'm going to set this equal to tweepy.api, and then I'm going to input our object. So I'm going to input authenticate, and then I'm going to set wait on rate limit equal to true. And now let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so everything's looking good so far. I'm going to create a new cell. And now it's time for us to gather the tweets. So I'm going to put some comments here and just say gather the tweets. And actually, I'm going to gather 2,000 tweets. So I think that looks good. And what type of tweets do I want to gather? I want to gather the 2,000, well, I want to gather 2,000 tweets about Bitcoin. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to create a search term. So I'm going to create a variable called search underscore term, and I'm going to set it equal to hashtag Bitcoin. So I'm going to search for this hashtag Bitcoin, and you know what? I'm going to filter it. So I'm going to filter all of the retweets. So what does that mean? I'm going to filter out any retweets. So I'm going to put that in the comment here and filter out any retweets. Okay. All right. So that looks good. Next, I need to be able to input this search term somewhere, because right now this is just a string. It's not doing anything. So in order for me to do something with this string here, with this search term, I need to create a cursor object. All right, so I'm going to create a variable called tweets, and I'm going to set it equal to tweetpy.cursor, and then I'm going to input the search API. So just type API.search, and then I'm going to input the query or Q, and I'm going to set Q equal to the search term. All right, and then I'm going to set the language to English. So that means I need to set lang equal to en, and then I want the tweet since November 1st, 2018. So I'm going to set since equal to 2018-11-01. That's the proper format for it. And then I'm going to set tweet mode equal to extended. Okay, and then I need to tell it the number of tweets that I want back. So I'm going to set items. I'm going to put dot items, and I'm going to input the number of tweets that I want back, which is 2,000. So I think that looks good. Next, I want to store the tweets in a variable, and I want to get the full text. So let's create a variable. I'm going to call it all tweets, and I'm going to set it equal to tweet dot full underscore text for tweet and tweets. Okay, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and run this. And this may take some time, so I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to come back when it's finished. Okay, so it looks like it's done. So I'm going to create a new cell now that it's done. And in this cell, I want to create a data frame to store the tweets with a column called tweets. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called df and set it equal to pd.dataframe, and I'm going to input our variable all tweets, and then I'm going to create our columns. So I'm going to set columns equal to tweets. All right, and that should be it. Next, I'm going to show the first 5 rows of data. So I'm just going to type df.head and input the number 5. There we go, and let's go ahead and run this. And there we go, we get to see a few of the tweets. All right. Okay, so next let's go ahead and clean these tweets up a little bit so we can see that we have this hashtag Bitcoin, and I want this just to be Bitcoin instead of having that hashtag there. We can see we have some backslash ns here, so let's clean this up just a little bit. I'm going to create a new cell, and now again in this cell I'm going to clean the tweets, so I need to create a function for that first. So I'm going to create a function to clean the tweets. So I'm going to call this function clean TWT, which will be short for tweet, and then it's going to input some tweet TWT. All right, and I'm going to set TWT or tweet equal to re dot sub. So I'm going to sub out whatever is in the tweet with something else. So I'm going to look for hashtag Bitcoin, and I'm going to replace it or substitute it for just Bitcoin. And then of course this has a third parameter, so that's the tweet. And again, this right here basically removes the hashtag from Bitcoin. Okay, so that's all that this is doing here. And I'm going to just kind of highlight this, and I'm going to copy using Control C, come down here and paste it using Control V, and I'm going to search for capital letter B for Bitcoin and replace it with capital letter B Bitcoin here. So now this removes the hashtag from the string Bitcoin, but with a capital letter B. All right. And this clean tweets function can be a lot better than what I'm doing here, but you know, it's just a little something that we're doing right now to kind of clean the tweets fast. All right. So next, let's set tweet equal to re.sub, and I'm going to remove any other word that has, or any other string that has a hashtag in it. So if the string has a hashtag in it and it's not Bitcoin, I'm just going to remove it from the tweet. So to do that, I'm going to use regular expressions. So we're going to find the string that starts with a hashtag followed by any letter A to Z capital, or A to Z lowercase, or 0 to 9. Okay. And then I'm going to put a plus sign here. So basically, what this will find is one or more, the plus sign here will find one or more of these characters. And of course, this string needs to start with a hashtag. So it's going to be a hashtag followed by some alphanumeric value. And then I'm going to replace that with just the empty string. And then of course I need to put in the third parameter, which is the tweet. So essentially here, again, we are removing, or we'll put removes any strings with a hashtag. All right. So next I want to get rid of that \n. So I'm just going to type TWT and set it equal to re.sub. And I can't just put the \n here and then replace it with an empty string and then put in the third parameter, the tweet. I have to put another \ here. So this first \ here will make sure that this \ is a normal character. All right. So here again, we're just removing the \n character, or I would put string. All right. So that looks good. And then I want to get rid of any hyperlinks. So I'm just going to type TWT and set it equal to re.sub. And this right here I have to think about a little bit, right? So any hyperlink has HTTP followed by maybe an S, maybe not, and then a colon, and then // and then some text, and then .com or like .io, something like that, right? So we need to search for strings like that. So it needs to start with HTTP, and then it can or cannot have an S here. So I'm going to put a question mark here, and that question mark basically finds 0 or 1 of the character before it. So it's going to find either 0 or 1 S's, and then we're going to have a colon here. And again, these slashes are special characters. So I'm going to put a \ here, and then a slash, and then a \ here, and then a slash. And now I just need to find basically any string here, right? So any alphanumeric string, and that's simple enough by using \S, and \S is one character that is not a white space character, so that's perfect. And then I'm going to put the plus sign, which again, the plus sign finds one or more of the characters in front of it. So this is perfect. Hopefully this works the way that I want it to. So here I'm just going to type removes any hyperlinks. Okay. So I'm looking at it again just to triple check that everything looks right. And I think it does. I think that this will work. All right. So let's go ahead and replace that with the empty string. And then let's add in TWT. And now I think we are done with it. Okay. So now I'm going to return TWT. And let's go ahead and run this. All right, and let's create a new cell now that we are done creating this clean tweet function. And I want to clean the tweets. All right, so I'm just going to type df tweets, and I'm going to set it equal to df tweets dot apply, and I'm going to apply that function clean twt. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to keep the tweets column the way it is currently, so I can compare and contrast the clean tweets from the original tweets. So I'm going to call this column here cleaned underscore tweets. And now I want to show the data set. So I'm just going to type df.head, and let's go ahead and run this. Okay, now to my left we have our original tweets, and to the right we have the clean tweets. So we can see that it did change that hashtag Bitcoin to just Bitcoin, and we can see this \n has been removed, or these \n's have been removed. Let's go ahead and take a look at, we'll go with 10 rows, and let's run this again. All right, and excellent. So here we can see a hyperlink, HTTPS, all this right here, and we can see that that hyperlink is removed, is gone. So in our clean tweets column. So this looks good. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new cell. And now what I want to do is I want to create a function to get the subjectivity. And for those of you who don't know anything about the subjectivity, it's basically a float within the range 0 to 1, where 0 is very objective and 1 is very subjective. So I'm going to call this function get subjectivity, and it's going to take in some tweet, and then it's going to return text blob. And of course, we're going to input that tweet dot sentiment dot subjectivity. And I think that will be it. That's all that's needed. And then I'm going to create a function to get the polarity. So let's call this function get polarity, and it's going to take in some tweet, and then it's going to return text blob, where we input some tweet dot sentiment dot polarity. All right, so that should be good. And now let's create two new columns called subjectivity and polarity. Okay, so I'm just going to type df, and then of course create my subjectivity column, and I'm going to set it equal to something later on, and then I'm going to create my polarity column and set it equal to something else as well. So what are we going to set it equal to? I'm going to set it equal to df cleaned tweets dot apply, and I'm going to apply the function get subjectivity. And I'm just going to highlight this and copy using Control C, and then come here and highlight that and paste it using Control V. And then I'm going to change this word subjectivity to polarity, so that we're using or applying the get polarity function. All right. And then I want to show the data. So I'm just going to type df.head, And let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so now we can see our two new columns here, and we can see the subjectivity and the polarity columns, and we can see the values in those columns. So it looks good. I'm going to create a new cell, and now I want to create a function to get the sentiment text. So by that I mean I want to get the text of how the user is feeling about this particular or in this particular tweet about Bitcoin. So I want to see, you know, the words negative or neutral or positive. So I'm going to create a function that will help me easily see those words. So I'm going to call this function get sentiment. All right, it's going to take in some score. And if score is less than 0, then we're going to return the negative text or negative string. Else if score is equal to 0, I'm going to return the neutral string. And else score is not less than 0 and it's not equal to 0, therefore it's greater than 0. So I'm going to return the positive string, and that should be it. So let's go ahead and run this, and let's create a new cell. And now I'm going to create a column to store the text sentiment. And so here I said create a function to get the sentiment text. I'm just going to call it text sentiment here as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that column. I'm going to call the column sentiment, and I'm going to set it equal to df polarity dot apply, and I'm going to apply that get sentiment function, and then I want to show the data. So I'm just going to type df dot head, and let's go ahead and run this. And now if I scroll over, we can see the new column called sentiment, and it has those strings that tells us if the tweet is positive, negative, or neutral. All right, so this looks really good. I'm going to create a new cell now, and in this cell we're going to plot some of these values. So I'm going to create a scatter plot to show the subjectivity and the polarity. Okay, so I'm just going to type plt.figure to create my figure, and then I'm going to give the figure a figure size. I'm going to set the figure size equal to 8 by 6, and then I'm going to plot each point in our data set. So I'm going to use a for loop for this. So for I in range 0 to the length of the data set, that's df.shape at position 0. And let's go ahead and just check that we have 2,000 rows of data like we expect. So I'm going to highlight this, copy using Control C, create a new cell, and I'm going to paste it here using Control V, and then just run this. And indeed, we do have 2,000 rows of data, so that's good. Let's delete that cell. Okay, so now for each row, I'm going to plot the polarity and the subjectivity. So I'm going to type plt.scatter because I'm going to use a scatter plot, and then the x-axis will contain the polarity. So I'm going to put df polarity at position I, and then the y-axis will contain the subjectivity. So I'm going to put df subjectivity at position I, and then I'm going to give the points a color. So I'm going to set the color equal to purple, and I think that looks good. So next I'm going to give my plot a title. So I'm going to type pt.title, and I'm going to call this sentiment analysis scatter plot. All right, and then I'm going to give the x-axis a label. So I'm going to type plt.xlabel, and again the x-axis contains the polarity. So I'm going to put polarity here, and then I'm going to give the y-axis a label. So I'm going to type plt.ylabel, and I'm going to call it subjectivity. All right, And then I want to show this. So I'm going to type polarity.show. And then let's run this, and it may take some time. So I'm going to pause the video and then come back when it's done. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so I came back with a few errors, and that's because I have a capital X here and a capital Y here. So again, that's why I have this error message. So let's go ahead and just make this lowercase y, I'm sorry, lowercase y here and a lowercase x here, and let's run this again. Okay, and it looks like we have our plot. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what does this mean, right? So if we look at this point here, we can see that the polarity is 1.0. So that means that this tweet is very, very positive, and it's very, very subjective because it's 1.0 up here. So it's a positively subjective tweet. But so this tweet is very positive and very, very subjective. If we look at this point here, it looks like this tweet is very negative and very subjective. And if we had a point right here, that means that the tweet was very negative but very objective. All right. So I'm going to put something else here on the y-axis. I'm going to put objective to subjective. Okay, and I'm going to run this one more time. Okay, and now I think this plot looks really good. Okay, also from this scatter plot, it looks like the majority of the tweets are around this positive area, and then a few seem to be in the neutral area and not too many in this negative area. So let's create a new cell to look at the count of the text sentiment. All right, so I'm going to create a bar chart to show the count of positive, neutral, and negative sentiments. All right, so just type df and then input sentiment for the column that we're going to be using. And then I want the value counts. So I'm going to put dot value underscore counts. And then I want to plot it. So dot plt. And then I'm going to tell it what kind of plot. So I'm going to set kind equal to bar. And then I'm going to give this basically the same thing, a title, a label, and then I'm going to show it. So I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to highlight all of this and copy using Control C, and then come down here and paste it using Control V. But instead of having sentiment analysis scatter plot, this will be sentiment analysis bar plot, and the x-axis is not the polarity, it will be the sentiment. And then the y-axis is the counts, right? So this will be the number of tweets. And I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and run this. And just like that, we get our bar plot. All right. So here we can see it looks like most of the text is neutral. It looks like over 800 of the tweets are neutral. Over 800 of the tweets are positive. They actually look really, really close, but it looks like neutral beats the number of positive tweets just a little bit. And then we have just a little over, it seems, of 200 tweets that are negative. So this tells me that the majority of the tweets that we've gathered, the 2,000 tweets that we have, the majority of them are neutral and positive towards Bitcoin. All right, and of course you can use this later on for other things with like the cryptocurrency market to either bet for or bet against Bitcoin. All right, so thanks for watching the video, and a special thanks to the Patreon supporters on patreon.com. If you would like to become a supporter of this channel or get the code and the structure of the login file, I will leave a link in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next video.